Okay.
Just to kick off,
Not very good.
you were born in Hungary, I believe.
That's right. I was born in Budapest,
Ah,
1955.
when
But I was a little kid. Sorry?
when did you make your way to Australia?
In 1957 we got here.
Uh-huh.
A lot of Hungarians came here at that time when the Russians came into Hungary.
At what point did music start to play an important part in your life?
Music, well, probably in school. I started listening to stuff, and then I had a couple of buddies, and one of them bought a guitar, electric guitar, that he used to plug into his cassette player, and we used to have like little jams, me, him, and another fella in his like a little room, playing mainly Great Balls of Fire over and over again. That was the start of my career.
What about the harmonica? When did that come into play for you?
Well, that came not too long after. I had this other friend who actually played me a little Walter record, which was very rare in those days, of a single of him doing My Babe. I thought, wow, that's a great sounding thing. And I heard it, in little bits of harmonica and different things I always liked, like, in Coke Salad Annie, which was a big hit at the time for, Tony Joe White had a bit of harmonica in the middle of it that sounded good to me, and I thought, yeah, I'd love to play it sound like that. And then I started, searching out harmonicas on records, playing blues like people, and I had, I suppose my biggest learning influence was actually Big Walter Horton, Shaky Walter Horton, who was at around the same time as Little Walter.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of his LPs, and I just studied those to learn all my little licks.
Were there any bands for you before the Dynamic Hepnotics that you can tell us about?
Oh, sorry, look, it's gone all fuzzy again.
Oh.
I couldn't hear. Did you?
Prior to the Dynamic Hepnotics, were there any other bands of note that you could tell us about?
That I played in?
Yeah.
Well, my first professional outfit was called the Rug Cutters, which was just before the Dynamic Hepnotics, which went from about 1977 to 79. And then there was the Hepnotics straight after that, that went till the sort of towards the end of the 80s. And then I had the Mighty Reapers for the 90s, which we put out a few CDs through the Rufus label. And then I had the Continental Blues Party and the Rinky Dinks, which is my present lineup.
Uh-huh.
I think that's all there is.
Yeah.
There was heaps of like little bands, sort of one-off things, and things that went for a few weeks too. But they were my main breadwinning acts over the years.
Going back to the beginning of the Dynamic Hepnotics, did you have an initial blueprint for the sound of that band? What you wanted to achieve there?
Yeah, well, I always loved blues, and then one thing that always stuck with me was when I was a kid on the TV, they'd always have that Tammy show, which was like a live TV show and had all those soul stars on it, all on the one show, like Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson, and Ike and Tina Turner, and Bo Diddley, and everyone. And then there was James Brown on it, and I thought, that's the first time I ever saw James Brown actually. I've heard, some of his singles and that, but I just saw that show where he did all that dancing and spinning around in the splits and fainting and everything, and I was on my edge of my chair watching this little black and white TV, and I just think, imagine being there, because it was like, it was a big loud sound, and I'd have like a heart attack or something. Anyway, that always stuck with me, and I thought, it wouldn't be great to have like some kind of show trying to be like that, where it was just like a non-stop, instead of having just one song and then stopping and doing the next song, how everything just went together, and there was people dancing and falling over and spinning, and I thought it'd be great to try and do that, because you never see that. And that was my sort of rough blueprint, was to have a band that could do that. So, we devised a little riff to play in between tunes like he had on his records, like James Brown and all those soul guys had some sort of vamping riff to keep the momentum going while you introduce the next tune. So try to do as much of that as possible. And that was the basic idea of the dynamic hypnotics. It was like half doing the bluesy stuff and the soul stuff on the other half, but doing that show all the way through. So that was my big blueprint.
Yeah. Was it a surprise for you when the band found itself receiving mainstream top 40 success, considering some of the other music that was in the mainstream at that time?
Well, yeah, it was actually, because we had the singles, put records out before, and the normal thing was that they get completely ignored on the radio, except on some community shows, and like Triple J or something would play it occasionally. And so we had a single for we had a 2-single deal with Mushroom Records, and was the first one was the one that they wanted to put out, which was a song called I'll Make You what's called, and it did nothing as usual. So then we put out the next one, was Soul Kind of Feeling, and I just thought, the usual thing will happen, nothing. And then for some reason, Triple M here in Sydney picked it up, and which was like the major commercial radio station, and put it on rotation. So wow, they're actually playing. And then everything just sort of snowballed from there, and I could see it, in the charts, in the afternoon paper, in the pop section, there was Dynamic Hypnotics in the charts alongside all these big stars. I thought, wow. And so it was a surprise.
Where did the Continental Robert nickname originate?
Where? Yeah. I made that up myself. Because I thought, look, I was born in Budapest, so I'll call myself Continental Robert, because that sounds more impressive than Robert. People think I'm a star without even seeing me. And see, it worked.
Yeah. So, was there anything in particular that brought about the end for the Hepnotics?
Brought about the end of the Hepnotics?
Yeah.
Well, we had been going for quite a while, like almost 10 years, and what really brought about the end of it, I guess, was a lack of interest from a record company. But we didn't have that deal with Mushroom anymore, and we actually made some recordings off our own, off our own bat, and I still got those tapes in my cupboard here in the hallway. So we never got a deal with anyone. It was a shame, because there's some good stuff on it. And at that time, the band grew to be the lineup changed, and so it was like a big 8-piece band too, with a couple of horns and percussion and everything in it. And we did it for a while, but it was just without having like a record deal and stuff. It was sort of instead of trying to feed all those mouths and grind to a halt, we just put it in a shelf to Dynamic Hypnotics and used the rhythm section, just like 5 of us, and go out as the Mighty Reapers, which was, that's how that transition happened.
So it was it was a natural transition then from one band to the next.
Yeah, that's how, because there was actually the Mighty Reapers were going, while the Dynamic Hypnotics were going at one stage, it was just like a band that included me and Dave Brewer on guitar, who I met when he came over with the Elks from Western Australia back in that was actually the late 70s. And he was still playing in the Elks too at that time, and we decided to put it like a band together just to have fun, when we weren't working with our respective lineups. And then when the Hepnotics underwent a change, I grabbed all the guys from the Mighty Reapers and put them in the Dynamic Hepnotics, and so, plus with some horns and so on. So that's how the transition really happened. And then we put the Dynamic Hepnotics into the shelf and kept the Mighty Reapers going, and kept going for 10 years after that.
Yeah, well, that's right. You were together for over a decade. A fine achievement for any band, and even more impressive considering the audience you were playing to was like a specialist music genre. It must have been a very tight unit.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. And like I say, it wasn't really in the mainstream. One of the things that helped us, I guess, too, to keep going, is we had a record deal with Rufus Records, who are very good. It was just like one guy, basically, who loved that kind of music. And it's actually mainly a jazz label, but we were their one R&B act in the label. And also, we did as friends, would bring out a lot of people from the States, like performers like Big Joe McNeely and Margie Evans and Lightning, and Lucky Peterson and Louisiana Red, and we got to be the backup band for all these fellas, and that was a great experience, and it helped also keep our sort of profile going a bit, because we got to play with these guys who would attract a lot of people, coming from the States and everything, and past legends. So that helped us going over the years too, and plus being able to put out like CDs sort of fairly regularly.
Yeah.
So yeah, on that level we kept going, and didn't have many overheads, so that was good.
Was there overseas interest in the Mighty Reapers at all?
Well, there was. We actually got a deal with this label called Terra Nova, who put out all the Rufus Records albums we did in the States, but they sort of disappeared. So, and we haven't heard from them since. So I don't know. They must have did all right, because they put out like about 5 CDs of ours.
Yeah.
But we never got any material feedback from them about it. But I remember one stage, I think the first one they put out, which was the Mighty Reapers. It's just a self-titled album, the Mighty Reapers. It was became album of the week or month on Dan Aykroyd's show. He had a regular radio show in the States.
Oh yeah.
And they sent us a tape of that show with him introducing our album and stuff. So, but that was there was one half attempt to try and go over to the US to do a little tour on the on the strength of having that, but unfortunately we never quite got it together. So that was the closest we got to going overseas anywhere.
Now,
except we went to Christmas Island and played there a couple of times before it became a refugee centre, when it was just a casino there.
Uh-huh.
And we never quite got anywhere overseas except on the record.
Now, after that was the Continental Blues Party. Tell us about that outfit.
Well, eventually the Mighty Reapers came to an end. Dave Brewer moved back to Perth, and where he still lives now, and it's just the usual. It just ends up having some of the Mighty Reapers or and other friends were made over the years and putting a little band together, and it was sort of, we put out one CD, which is still my latest release, which came out about 5 years ago, the Continental Blues Party on the Soul Side CD.
Mm-hmm.
And that went, so we've been doing that for the last probably 5 or 6 years, the Continental Blues Party. And now it's gradually evolved into the Rinky Dinks, which is the present lineup, but is yet to release any recordings. But seriously thinking about it at the moment.
So what is the lineup of the Rinky Dinks? Who's in that band?
The Rinky Dinks is me singing and playing harmonica, this fella called Ilya Svek on guitar, who actually he lives in Wollongong. He's a great little guitarist and is also good to have in the band because his surname has got SZ in it as well, SZWEC. So we've got two people in one band who've got SZ next to each other on their surnames. And Rob Wolf plays the Wurlitzer electric piano, who actually played for a while in the Mighty Reapers, as well as Clayton Doley sometimes makes an appearance on the organ. And on bass, it'll be either Rowan Lane, who also played in the Continental Blues Party, and he used to play in the band the Upper Lips back in the 90s, was a soul band. And he also always plays with Eugene Bridges, who comes out quite regularly now from the States, and he's his regular bass player. So it's either him or Vito, Mr. Showbiz Portalessi on the bass, who played in the Mighty Reapers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And who else? And Tero Cheskin, did I mention him on the drums? He's the first choice drummer. Along with we have we've got a lot of top quality backup people in all the different positions because everyone plays in sort of half a dozen different bands. But it's either him on the drums or sometimes Declan Kelly or Duncan Archibald or Jacob Cook. So it's a bit of a floating lineup, but everyone's tried and tested and up to the top quality of the Rinky Dinks.
Looking back through all your bands over the years, what do you think can you pinpoint one uniform quality that has existed through all of those bands?
Yeah, me. I guess. Well, I guess either way that's true, because all the bands is some sort of mixture of like soul and blues music, going from one extreme to the other, if you can call them extremes. But basically that's my main interest. So that's the link between all the bands, I guess. And there's always, it seems to be a bit of, we've never been that super serious.
Yeah.
There's always sort of some sort of humour in it, just like life, I guess, to keep people sane. Although there has been moments of insanity in all my bands too, which I'm sure is pretty common. Well, that's all I can think of. I never thought about it that deeply, really.
Well, your bands have certainly had a great live reputation, and when taking these bands into a studio situation, have you done anything special to try and maintain that great live feel?
Well, I mean, I try and play live in the studio too, which sometimes, depending on the studio, can be hard because there's not enough room to stick everyone in there and things like that. But basically, we just, most of the time, by the time we go in the studio, the songs we record, we've been playing them a bit live and sort of come to an arrangement of how we think they sound the best. And basically just go in the studio and play the same we play live and hope for the best. And sometimes, or occasionally, we might just, sort of streamline them a bit for studio versions where, live, when there's people dancing and carrying on, you can sort of stretch things out a bit, and especially if there is people dancing, you don't want to cut it too short for them. But in the studio, we might, condense a lot of these things to fit the studio feel of it. But basically, we just sort of played the same as we play it live, and just sometimes it can be a bit hit and miss, but that's the style of the music too.
And what's the state of the blues scene up there in Sydney at the moment, Robert? Is it a strong scene?
Well, it is. It's sort of picking. It went through a bit of like the whole music scene, I guess, was the live music scene was gone through a bit of a drought over the last 10 or 15 years. But it's starting to pick up now, I think, a bit more with like some venues springing up, and there's actually a lot of good young blues players around who've come up and taken over. People like Ray Beadle and Adam Pringle, the Red Beans, and up here who are like excellent musicians and singers, and yes, they sound great. So, I mean, that's bodes well for the future, I guess.
Yeah.
And hopefully, things will keep picking up, because it was pretty depressed for a while there, the whole scene. Hard to make ends meet. That's what I suppose how everyone ended up playing in about 5 or 6 different bands each, just to put the food on the table.
Yeah. And you said there are recording plans for the Rinky Dinks. How far advanced are they?
Well, we were just talking about doing some recording. That's how far advanced. which could, and even today I was had a meeting with some people who were interested in actually recording the band. So that's another step forward too. But I'm hoping we can record something by the beginning of next year.
Oh, great!
So that's not too far.
No,
yeah.
No.
It's just a matter of getting it together, which sometimes easier said than done.
Fantastic.
But because we got the band sounding good, and we've got some good material that we've never recorded, so there's every reason to do so.
Yeah, look forward to that. And look forward to getting you down to Melbourne. You're not down here near often enough. We'd love to see you down here again.
Yeah, well, there's a slight chance I might be coming down in December again.
Oh, great.
And last time I was in Melbourne when was that? That was in August or something, just for a week, and playing with some Melbourne fellas who I play with down there. Ronnie Farella on the drums, and actually it was a combination. Rowan Lane on the bass came down with me from Sydney, and we played. Actually, we did a good show down at Manchester Lane with guest stars Andy Baylor and Rick Dempster were special guest stars that made it into a little soul review. It worked out well, so hopefully we can keep doing things like that. And there's a chance we might come down in December in some combination.
Oh, that'll be great.
But I'll let you know as soon as I find it.
Yeah, I will keep a lookout for that. Robert, thanks so much for your time. Congratulations on being a great survivor of the Australian music scene.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for your interest, too.
And we'll keep our eyes and ears out for the Rinky Dinks.
Okay, great.
Okay, take care.